was buried.
Listen closely to the cosmos, and you won't find a serene, quiet void. The universe is incredibly loud. It is saturated with the constant, chaotic radio screaming of dying stars, spinning pulsars, and violent quasars blasting energy across the spectrum. For astronomers searching for extraterrestrial intelligence, this ambient roar creates an immense problem. Finding an intentional, targeted broadcast buried inside that overwhelming cosmic static is an exercise in extreme patience. You're trying to isolate a single, deliberate whisper in the middle of a Category 5 hurricane. For decades, automated systems have listened to that storm, recording nothing but natural, random static. But in August of 1977, something cut through the noise. A clear, impossibly distinct anomaly registered on the equipment, completely defying the normal acoustic profile of deep space. Catching a signal this precise means beating nearly impossible odds. To pull a structured transmission out of the universal background static requires the data to align perfectly against every natural law that governs cosmic radio waves. The instrument that caught this anomaly was the Big Ear Radio Telescope in Ohio. Due to its massive, flat design, it had a critical limitation. It couldn't physically turn to track objects. The array was bolted to the ground, entirely dependent on the Earth's rotation to slowly sweep its listening beam across the night sky. Take a look at this recreation of a standard 1977 data printout from the telescope. Days after the observation, astronomer Jerry Ehman was scanning pages of these routine numbers, which usually hovered between 1 and 4. Then his eyes hit an unbroken vertical sequence, 6EQUJ5. What you are seeing on this chart is the computer's way of measuring intensity. That specific alphanumeric sequence translates into a loud, continuous, narrowband graphical spike. It looked nothing like the random, low-level static produced by regular cosmic background radiation. Recognizing immediately that he was looking at an impossible spike in the data, Ehman took a red pen, circled the sequence, and scribbled a single word in the margin: "Wow." Ehman's red ink marked where a routine check transitioned into a permanent physical record of a cosmic event scientists still cannot account for. The strength of the wow signal was fascinating, but the exact frequency it arrived on is what truly shocked the scientific community. The transmission was broadcasting perfectly at 1,420 megahertz. This animation shows why that specific number is vital. 1,420 megahertz is the exact frequency emitted by a hydrogen atom when it flips its spin state. Because hydrogen is the most abundant element in the universe, astronomers refer to this frequency as the universal watering hole. If an advanced civilization wanted to guarantee another species would be listening, they would broadcast exactly here. Furthermore, observe the timeline on this diagram. The signal lasted exactly 72 seconds. Because Big Ear was fixed to the ground, it took exactly 72 seconds for the Earth's rotation to sweep the telescope's listening window across any single stationary point in deep space. The data swelled, peaked, and vanished precisely on that rigid mathematical schedule. It arrived on the universal frequency for communication, and it perfectly matched the geographic footprint of a stationary deep space beacon. The physical characteristics of the recorded data practically demanded that researchers investigate it as a genuine extraterrestrial message. But a compelling profile is not proof. The scientific method requires intense skepticism. Before entertaining the idea of alien contact, astronomers had to aggressively attempt to debunk the anomaly by testing every possible natural or earthly explanation. The first and most obvious suspect was terrestrial interference, a secret military broadcast, a classified aircraft, or a rogue piece of orbital hardware bouncing a stray signal back down into the Ohio array. However, the 1420 MHz band is an internationally protected zone, specifically reserved for passive astronomical observation. Any active human broadcasting on that frequency is strictly forbidden by global treaties, making a man-made military or commercial source highly unlikely. Beyond the legal restrictions, the physics of an Earth-based object simply don't match the tape. Satellites and aircraft are in motion. They travel much too fast across the sky to perfectly mimic the slow 72-second swell and fade of a stationary target light years away. For human technology to have created the wow signal, it would have required a global power to break international broadcasting law, while simultaneously defying the basic mechanics of orbital speed. With earthly interference ruled out, the investigation moved to the deep sky. Could a rare, undocumented natural phenomenon, like a fast radio burst, have caused the spike? Decades later, in the 2010s, a prominent theory emerged suggesting a comet. The hypothesis proposed that two comets passing through the Big Ear's field of view in 1977 released massive clouds of hydrogen gas, creating a sudden spike at the 1420 MHz frequency. But the comet theory collapses under the same mechanical scrutiny. Comets move incredibly slowly relative to our position on Earth. A vast, diffuse cloud of gas trailing behind a comet cannot snap in and out of a telescope's listening beam with a perfect 72-second temporal footprint. Once you strip away the erratic movements of rogue satellites, the slow crawl of comets, and the strict protections on global radio frequencies, you are left with a very narrow set of mathematical facts. The inability to find a natural or terrestrial fit for the signal's precise timing means that an artificial origin remains a subject of serious scientific debate. Knowing exactly where the telescope was pointing in 1977, modern astronomers took up the hunt. They directed vast, highly advanced arrays back to the precise patch of sky in the constellation Sagittarius where the Big Ear had been listening. These weren't quick glances. Observatories funded intense listening campaigns. They monitored the coordinates for hours, stretched into days, and eventually maintained observational vigilance across entire decades. Yet despite having equipment exponentially more sensitive than the Big Ear, the result of these extensive searches has been haunting: complete, unbroken silence. This silence enforces the most rigid, unforgiving rule of the scientific method: reproducibility. Without a second detection, no matter how perfect the data looks, the wow signal cannot be confirmed as alien contact. It is trapped in a permanent state of anomaly. This diagram illustrates one of the leading theories for why the silence remains unbroken. If the source was artificial, it might have been a rotating cosmic beacon, sweeping a narrow cone of energy across the galaxy like a lighthouse, intersecting with Earth for only a few brief moments before moving on. Alternatively, it could have been a single, transient burst from a spacecraft passing through that sector. There is also the persistent reality of our own ignorance. It is entirely possible the event was a highly unique, naturally occurring phenomenon governed by deep space physics that humanity simply does not understand yet. Regardless of its true origin, the wow signal left an indelible mark on the search for extraterrestrial intelligence. It provided empirical proof that highly targeted, anomalous signals do exist in the noise, validating the continuous, exhaustive monitoring of the skies. Its brief existence forces us to look up and confront the terrifying scale of our universe and the overwhelming statistical difficulty of ever making contact across that dark expanse. We are left searching a quiet horizon, holding a single page of data that defies every natural explanation we can throw at it. For 72 seconds, humanity may have heard something extraordinary, then it vanished forever. Whether it was an astrophysical fluke or a fleeting hello from the dark, we may never know. We are simply left listening, waiting for the anomaly to repeat.